We begin this morning with a Fox News alert. Overnight, Israel launching sweeping strikes against Iran, targeting its nuclear facilities, military strikes, sites, and top commanders.
Several Iranian military leaders and nuclear scientists believed to be dead, and right now Israel is beginning to intercept drones sent from Iran in retaliation. But Israel says this is just the beginning of their operation.
Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action.
You are watching a special 4 a.m. edition of Fox and Friends First on this Friday morning. I'm Carly Shimkus.
And I'm Todd Pyro. Alex Hogan, live in Israel, joins us now with the very latest. Alex.
Hi, Carly and Todd. Israel says that it has identified as many as 100 drones launched by Iran heading toward Israeli airspace. And Israel says that it has started to at least attempt to shoot down some of those drones over Syrian airspace, as Jordan is attempting to take down some of the drones that are above its airspace. At the same time, we just got this new alert from Israel's home command urging people that they do not need to stay as close to shelters as they had been in the previous hours, indicating that Israel and the Israeli Defense Force believe at this point that they will be able to take out the incoming threat as we await what could be these waves of drones sent over anytime this hour. All of this follows what happened earlier this morning when Israel says it targeted the heart of Iran's nuclear capabilities in an operation it calls Rising Lion.
The Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. When someone comes to kill you, rise and act first. This is exactly what Israel has done today. We have risen like lions to defend ourselves.
Israel says it used more than 200 fighter jets to hit over 100 targets across Iran. In Iran, multiple explosions were heard near the Natanz nuclear power facility. There are reports this morning that that center has been completely destroyed, although the International Atomic Energy Agency says that there has been no increase in the radiation levels at that facility. Fires broke out across Iran. Iranian state media today say that 3 military commanders in the Iranian regime were killed. 6 nuclear scientists were also killed. And Washington quickly responding. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying, quote, "We are not involved in strikes against Iran, and our top priority is protecting American forces in the region." And President Trump also telling our Brett Baier, quote, "Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb, and we are hoping to get back to the negotiation table. We will see. There are several people in leadership that will not be coming back." It was around 3 a.m. this morning when sirens blared across Israel, waking up millions of people, telling them to get into shelters as quickly as possible. The defense minister quickly declared a special state of emergency after this elaborate strike, again, anticipating that there would be this Iranian attack. The IDF is also mobilizing thousands of troops as well as reservists because of this incoming strike that we are expecting. But there is, of course, that caution that we are hearing from Home Front Command that people can stay a little bit further away from shelters, not gathering in any public places. It is the weekend. Normally we would see this area, Carly and Todd, packed with people. No one is here except for people who have been going out to get groceries and stock up on water. Carly, Todd.
Yeah, getting all the essentials. And Alex, it is welcome news that you just reported that Israel does think that they can take out those 100 drones that Iran launched towards Israel so that people can potentially move about more freely than what they may have previously expected today. But the Israeli people, Alex, as you know, they've been through so much. This war in Gaza now over 600 days old. So now that you're on the ground in Israel, what can you tell us about how this strike is being received by the Israeli people?
Well, this came as quite a shock. Of course, people who have lived here, people who are from here, they are used to going to the shelters. They are used to hearing the sounds of sirens, getting those alerts that we receive on our phones, telling us exactly what is happening. And who is launching a strike, whether that is coming from Hamas, if it was Hezbollah previously before the ceasefire up in the north, or the Houthis in Yemen. When people went to the shelters this morning, it wasn't until later that they received the notification from the government that this was in fact in anticipation of an Iranian response after their preemptive strike. So there is a level of exhaustion that people are feeling after being at war for so long and now seeing something potentially escalate. There's also the feeling at the same time among Israelis that they believe that this needed to happen to prevent Iran from developing their nuclear capabilities even further. Of course, this also comes at the same time as we were expecting to see more negotiations take place. Of course, those will not be taking place in the same way that there had been hopes that they would. Diplomatically, of course, we expect to see more conversations to try to bring people back to the negotiation table and bring down the temperature here in the Middle East. Carly Todd.
Israel wouldn't have attacked if they didn't feel like the time is now, and that is why we are seeing the events unfolding as we did overnight. Alex Hogan live for us in Tel Aviv. Alex, thank you.
Thanks.
Let's bring in Fox News contributor and former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman. Dan, it appears that the intel that went into planning this seems to be on par with those pager strikes. In other words, very targeted, very specific. A lot of work went into it prior to the ultimate strikes. What are you hearing from your sources in the intel community as to how Israel pulled this off?
No, it's an extraordinary intelligence success where Israel was able to fuse their intelligence collection and operations on the ground with military operations to target Iran's nuclear facilities, as well as the means that Iran would use to conduct retaliatory operations against Israel. Again, this is what Israel is known for, and the country wouldn't exist if they didn't have this incredibly sophisticated intelligence capability. It's an extraordinary success, and it's an ongoing success. Israeli operatives are on the ground inside Iran conducting covert operations even as we speak.
What will the outcome, Dan, of this be? Will this end the evil that is the Iranian Revolution that started in 1979? Do you think that this could lead to regime change? Or will, when the dust settles, will the region remain largely the same?
Well, that's certainly, a question that is worth asking. At this point, the other more immediate questions are whether Israel has taken out enough of Iran's nuclear program. We've been tracking Israeli strikes on Natanz, as well as Arak, and potentially Isfahan, but it's Fordo, the underground facility, that I think we need to be focused on as well. And I'm sure there will be questions in the coming hours today about whether Israel has been able successfully to target that site. Doing so through the air, very difficult, but Israel might have been using covert operations as well. As for long-term regime change, it's certainly possible. But I think at this point we've got to be focused on what looks like an all-out war between these two countries.
Yeah, and to that point, the IAEA says there's no increased radiation levels at the Natanz nuclear site after Israel bombed it. Iranian authorities, though, Dan, have also informed the IAEA that the country's Bushehr nuclear power plant hasn't been targeted. So with that in mind, it does seem like there could potentially still be enriched uranium in Iran. And if that's the case, what do they do with it?
Yeah, the Bushehr facility is a civilian facility that the Russians helped to build. And that is the question. Iran is in violation. The IAEA said that Iran was in violation of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. They've got over 400 kilograms of enriched uranium. No country would have that if they didn't want to develop a nuclear program. And so that is going to be a key issue for Israel and for the international community writ large to verify that Iran no longer has a nuclear capability. And that's what this war is all about for Israel.
Carly asked the question, or at least highlighted Alex Hogan speaking about the question of why now? We've been talking about Iran potentially weaponizing a nuclear weapon for years now. And based upon your sources in the intel community, because I know you're still really tapped into these folks, was the worry, or can you presume that the worry was from Israel that Iran did get really close or acquired that capability to arm a nuclear weapon that could bring massive death and destruction to Israel?
Look, Iran is a nuclear threshold state, and so there's a confluence, I think, of events here that we've seen. The United States gave Iran every opportunity to negotiate a way out of this crisis. President Trump had said that he had a roughly 2-month deadline and negotiations had taken place, but it was quite clear that Iran was playing for time and was defiantly opposing any real resolution to this growing crisis. The United States, I think, was willing to eliminate the sanctions, the onerous sanctions that have crippled Iran's economy in return for Iran giving up their nuclear program, and they never would do that. Simultaneously, Israel had taken out Iran's air defenses April a year ago and has decimated Iran's proxy terrorists, which is a means for Iran to mount retaliatory operations. And so I think Israel assessed that this was the last best chance to eliminate Iran's nuclear program. This is not something that Israel wanted to do, but I don't think they felt like they had any other choice, that this was an existential threat to Israel. And if you look at some of the strikes that Israel has launched on Iran, it's not just against Iran's nuclear program, it's against their missile capability, their nuclear scientists, as well as the head of the IRGC, Hossein Salami. It's just an extraordinary wave of strikes designed to decimate Iran's, not just their nuclear capability, but also their military writ large.
Yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu said in his address last night, imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey. This is an intolerable threat, and it must be stopped, which is exactly what they're aiming to do in this operation they've dubbed Operation Rising Lion that is expected to last for the next 2 weeks. Dan, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Dan.
Thanks. Have a good morning.
You too.
All right, let's bring in Chief Editor for the Middle East Forum, Jim Hansen. Jim, good morning to you. What is your assessment of the success of this Israeli strike?
It's amazing from my perspective. I don't see how you can look at the amount of damage they've done, the decapitation strikes to their military, taking out a lot of the air defenses so they can do follow-on missions, and apparently no losses of aircraft or anything on their side. It's a long way from a finished game, but this is one heck of a start for Israel to take out the most dangerous enemy in that region.
Jim, is the Ayatollah next on the target list to really facilitate regime change?
I think he has always been on the target list, and I'm sure they went at him last night, and I don't know that he's been seen. So I'm sure if he's alive, he's hiding. He may be dead. And he may be a follow-on target. I think what Israel needs to look at right now is how much damage they've done, and they'll get a good look at that during the daylight hours now, pick their next targets, and go ahead and ensure that whatever Iran does, it remains asymmetric. Iran's not an expeditionary military, so they can attack via what's left of their proxies after Iran took out, or Israel took out most of them. But there's not a lot they can do as far as rolling tanks or anything like that. It'll be terrorist attacks, missile strikes, and drones.
Yeah, the Supreme Leader promising a harsh punishment for the attack. But again, we don't know if that came from a proxy or somebody else writing that.
Yeah,
kind of statement.
and I was wondering, Jim, we've seen a lot of over the past few years protests inside Iran, people inside Iran who also want regime change. So how do you think the Iranian people right now are viewing this strike that took out some military sites and military commanders as well?
The Iranian people do not like their leadership. The amount of support is less than 20 to 25% for the regime. The rest of the Iranian people understand that the Islamic Republic, the Ayatollahs, have left them behind the rest of the free world. So they wouldn't mind at all to have a change in government. Now, can they get that together based on this and in the chaos that comes? That's possible, and I hope it does happen. I hope that they do change their government. The other thing that could happen is a succession battle. The supreme leader, if he's alive, is very old and feeble. He's going to die. There's already jockeying for position among the people who think they want to succeed him. If they start scrapping and the Iranian people get their game together, we all might be better off with anyone but them in charge in that country.
I'm glad you opened the door to jockeying a position because, yes, they may be happening with regard to the ultimate leader of Iran, but it's also potential for happening with who's in charge of the IRGC because, as we've reported, Salami, who replaced Qasem Soleimani, was killed last night. Yeah. So, one, is there a name that you are looking for to step up and take that position? But a follow-on question is, who wants that position at this point, knowing that the Israelis just wiped out basically the top four? Who wants to step up and take that position next?
Yeah, you look at Hezbollah's leadership chart with all those X's over the people who were running that operation. They're all dead. It's like the joke used to be that you don't want to be the number 2 guy for al-Qaeda in Iraq because we kept killing him. I don't know that anybody wants it. And we heard that there was a strike on a meeting of IRGC leadership. So we don't even know who's left, which would be phenomenal. The more of them who are dead, the less capable the rest will be. And the response from Iran will be, because of that, more splintered and less dangerous. So we're nowhere near out of the woods. This is just the opening salvo in what will be a couple weeks of battle. But it's not going to be a war. It's not going to be a ground war. It's not going to be a forever war or any of those things. And at this point, the U.S. is not involved. And I think Israel is handling its business quite well.
Yeah, I mean, it is really brilliant on the part of the Israelis, if you think about it, Jim, because they didn't just target the nuclear sites or the missiles. It also seems like they pre-planned this, took out the people who would have the power to call for retaliation in an orderly manner. So clear chaos inside Iran, and we're going to wait to see what that retaliation looks like. Do you think that this is the most significant move, Jim, that Israel has made since October 7th?
By far. This was always the existential threat, because this was not just a threat to Israel, as some people like to pretend. Having an apocalyptic death cult like the Islamic Republic Ayatollahs in control of nuclear weapons was intolerable for the free world. So they could have hit Israel, they could have hit us, they could have just basically any nuclear detonation anywhere throws the world into chaos. So yes, Israel has done the world a favor. We're a safer place right now, even with the chaos and the danger that's going to come because of this, just by having slowed this down. And they're not going to be able to rebuild it, because as soon as they start rebuilding, Israel will have more bombs and will take them out again if they have to.
Yeah, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday said, remember, Iran calls Israel the small Satan. It calls America the great Satan, which was a very good reminder on the part of the Prime Minister. Jim Hansen live for us this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Good to be with you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.